Welcome to Mikam Yisrael. In Parashat Korach, most people associate Korach's downfall with the moment he challenged Moshe Rabbeinu, but perhaps the seeds of the rebellion were planted much earlier. After all, how does a person stand beside Moshe Rabbeinu and fail to recognize Moshe Rabbeinu? How does someone witness Kriyat Yamsuf, stand at Har Sinai, eat the man and then descended from heaven and still question the very leadership that Borei Olam himself established? Korach was not a fool, nor was he ignorant. He wasn't disconnected from Kedusha. On the contrary, he lived surrounded by it. And therein lies one of the deepest truths about human nature. The things that impress us most from a distance often become invisible to close. The mountain that leaves a visitor speechless becomes invisible to the person who passes it every morning. The home that once felt like a dream becomes ordinary to the family that lives within it. The miracle that once inspired tears slowly becomes part of the future and the furniture of life, not because its value changed, but because perception has. The first time we encounter greatness, we are awestruck. The 100th time, we barely notice, not because greatness has diminished, but because wonder has. And once wonder disappears, appreciation is usually not far behind. Korach didn't fail to recognize greatness because greatness was absent. He failed to recognize greatness because it had become familiar. Moshe was no less extraordinary. Korach had simply grown accustomed to him, and perhaps that's one of the most dangerous illusions a person can experience. Not failing to discover greatness, failing to recognize the greatness already standing beside him. A spouse, perhaps a parent, a child, or even a friend, a Rebbe. The blessings remain, only our awareness fades. And when awareness fades, appreciation often follows. And that brings me to something remarkable. I'd like to share with you one of the most famous names in the Torah world, a name spoken by tens of thousands of Jews, a name printed in countless sifarim, a name I guarantee you that you know. And yet hidden inside that name was a story that almost nobody noticed. When Reb Shach, Zecher Sadik Livracha, was born, he was given two names, Elazar, Menachem. That was the name which he was known throughout his youth. But as the years passed, something curious happened. People noticed that Reb Shach was signing his name differently. Even when he was called to the Torah, he was not known simply as Elazar Menachem Shach. He was known as Elazar Menachem Man Shach. No one knew where the extra name had come from. And strangely, almost no one asks. And the years passed and moved forward, and the name remained, and the mystery remained with it. The only in time example that Reb Shach revealed in the story began many decades earlier, when he was a small child living in Eastern Europe during the years of the Bolshevik terror. Young Elazar Menachem was outside playing with his friends. Without warning, a soldier rushed towards him, and before the child could react, the soldier grabbed him, lifted him into a wagon, and began driving away. The boy immediately understood what was happening. He was being kidnapped. Then, in a moment that would alter the course of Jewish history, a woman witnessed the scene. She began screaming at the top of her lungs, Gewalt! Gewalt! They're kidnapping a child! Her cries echoed through the neighborhood. Doors flew open, windows open. People poured into the street. Neighbors ran towards the wagon and blocked its path. The soldier realized he was trapped. With no way to escape, he threw the child from the wagon and fled. Miraculously, that little boy survived. That child was Reb Shach. Now, many years passed. The frightened little boy became one of the greatest Torah leaders of his generation. One day, after delivering a shiur, a woman who worked in the yeshiva kitchen approached him. Rosh Yeshiva, forgive me for asking, but is your name Elazar Menachem? Yes, said Reb Shach. The woman explained that she had a neighbor in Ramat Gan who often spoke about an incident that had occurred many years earlier in Europe. A child had been kidnapped, a woman had screamed, a neighbor had been rushed into the street, a life had been saved. The woman who saved the child was still alive. And according to her story, that child had grown up to become Reb Shach. The Rosh Yeshiva was stunned. After receiving the address, he traveled personally to go and meet her, and when the woman opened the door, they pieced together the details. There was no doubt this was the very woman who had saved his life. Reb Shach was overwhelmed with Hakarat HaTov. You saved my life, he told her. I owe you everything. How can I repay you? The woman smiled. Baby, Baruch Hashem, I lack nothing. For a moment, Reb Shach was silent. Then he asked one final question. What is your name? My name? My name is Sarah Man. Rav Shach nodded. And then he made a remarkable declaration. From today forward, I will carry your name together with mine. Every time I'm called to the Torah, every time my name is spoken, your kindness will be remembered. And from that very day until the rest of his life, he carried her name, Reb Elazar Menachem Man Shach. Ha! Ladies and gentlemen, for decades, people called him Reb Elazar Menachem Man Shach, again and again and again. Yet almost nobody asked about the extra name. The story was sitting there in plain sight, hidden inside the name, waiting for someone to notice. And perhaps that's exactly what happened to Korach. Moshe Rabbeinu was never hidden. He was standing right there. The greatness was visible. The holiness and Kedusha was visible. The tzidkut, the righteousness, was visible. But after seeing it every day, Korach stopped noticing. And that may be one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a human being, to us. Not that greatness leaves our lives, but that it remains so long that we stop seeing it altogether. Perhaps someone is sitting at your Shabbat table. Perhaps someone calls to check on you from time to time. Maybe someone has carried you through the years of joy and years of difficulty. Perhaps someone has been performing quiet acts of love for so long that they have become part of the wallpaper of your life. And maybe, just maybe this week, Parashat Korach asks us a frightening question. What greatness have we stopped noticing? Because Korach lost Moshe long before he challenged Moshe. He lost him the moment Moshe became ordinary. Mika Amchi Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom Mivorach.